Henry Hutcheson is the founder and president of Family Business USA. He grew up working for his family's business, Olan Mills Portrait Studios. Oh boy, do I remember those, Henry. And had an international management career with UPS, Sunshine Electric, IBM, and he studied psychology at the American College of Switzerland. Welcome, Henry.
Thanks, Gail. A pleasure to be here.
I'm going to start off by asking you, because I know it's got to be very hairy sometimes, why do you work with family businesses?
Well, the short answer is it's a passion of mine. We've always heard as we go through life, you got to make a living and you have to have enough money to put food on the table and have a roof over your head and so on and so forth. But, some of us are lucky enough to pursue our passion. And this has been a passion of mine, ever since I was a child. I went on a different career path. But let me get down to specifics. Something like over 75% of all businesses in the United States are family-owned, run, or managed. They represent a huge proportion of our GDP, something like 65%. And I think it's something like 75% of all new jobs come from family businesses. But most of them fail. 2/3, they've been recording this through FFI, an organization that tracks some of this stuff, since probably the late 60s, early 70s. They'll take 100 family businesses and then they'll come back after they have transitioned, and there's only 33% remaining. So regardless of the generation, you lose 2/3. And so the reason I'm involved in this is that I have seen this and I understand this, and by getting involved, you can help these family businesses make these transitions. It's being able to provide that help, and it's not just the business, it's the family too. I mean, these are people that you love and are part of your family. And so when they fall apart, it's not just the money part, it's the relationship part as well. And so it's great to be able to be able to help.
Did you experience any of that when you were working with your family business, with your parents?
Well, it's funny you say that. That's kind of probably the root of why I do this. My grandfather founded Olan Mills. He and my grandmother, Mary, they had 4 children, my mother, my aunt, my uncle, and my uncle. And then my aunt didn't have kids, but everybody else had kids. We went through every family business issue you could possibly go through, but we got through them all. We got through all of them. There was the struggle between my grandfather and my uncles. There was the struggle between my uncles. There was the struggle between my uncles and my mother and my aunt. There was the struggle between my uncles and the next generation. We had it all. We went through all of it, and in the end, we had made it through all of this. Unfortunately, the industry of taking pictures of people dissolved with cameras going onto cell phones, and the end of being able to do telemarketing, which was their primary route to market, was calling people up and saying, hey, do you want to have your picture taken? So the industry fell apart, but it wasn't because of us. I mean, it wasn't because we couldn't run a family business and get through the issues. So we have family reunions, and we've got a great family. And so I think I can take some of this. I can relate to people that are in these situations, and it's not the answer, but I can say, hey, I've been there. I know what you mean. Let me tell you what happened to us. And I think we can get through this. So I think I can help.
But that brings up something else too, Henry, that you mentioned, though. I'm a big, huge believer in marketing, and I try all different kinds of marketing. But going back to 2 of the issues that you talked about, and this is what people, I know this is a show on how to live, with regret-free, but you brought up business. So I want to talk about these 2 things. And that is, telemarketing went away, which no one would believe if you still get all the telemarketing calls you get today.
Yes.
However, I was a great telemarketer. They called me the queen of telemarketing because all of my businesses I telemarketed. But to me, they were all warm calls, not cold calls. And the interesting thing is that you have to have 3, 4, 5 different ways of marketing, because if the whole idea in marketing is if you're depending on one line of revenue or one methodology and that goes away, you're in deep trouble. And that's exactly evidently what happened. And the other thing is there are still, though, photography studios around because, and it just becomes, I think you have to have a different appeal to why people would want a portrait or a picture, because yeah, everybody's got all these digital things on their phones and so forth, but very few people print anything out anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so you ask somebody, oh, let me see a picture of your kid, they reach for their phone. They
exactly.
really don't have
right
anymore, walls anymore. So
it's interesting that you bring that up because, at the origin of Olan Mills, it was door. I mean, this is, back in Depression days. My mother tells the stories of the salesmen coming to the house to have dinner. They'd talk about their day. They'd all find a corner to sleep in. They'd groom themselves in the morning and hit the road and go door to door. But once it's an unknown secret that Olan Mills basically invented telemarketing, but it was a different thing. They would put a studio in a town next to a development area, and they would hire local people from the church, from the school, from the neighborhood, from the community, and they would call people up at appropriate times and say, hey, this is so-and-so, and I'm with Olan Mills, and we've got this special, and we're in the studio right around the corner from your house, and would you like to come in and take pictures? And there was a 95% acceptance rate. Everybody wanted to get their picture taken. So it was a novelty kind of back then. But once that, it evolved, then it turned into something where people are getting phone calls from foreign countries during dinner selling you things that you don't want. And
right.
In the end, we my uncles went to Washington and, said their piece and said, look, we're not doing that. We know who we're calling. We know when we're calling, but there were too many bad characters in the field, and it went away. And so that's when we started being more of a retail presence. But it's really the digital photography. It can't replace the portrait over the fireplace. So now the pictures that get taken are from the local, well-known, expert, polished photographer that's in your neighborhood. It's just it's not a national art anymore. It's individual photographers, and that business has grown greatly for all of those individuals around the country.